Yes, yes, we are back with another episode of the Experience Podcast, and I am your host, the one and only Teck-Zilla, and today we have Mr. Bayo Omisore. I hope I got the name
Mhm.
right. My Yoruba is weird.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're good. You're good.
No, I
You're
try.
good.
I know, I know.
Mm.
So yeah, the thing is, we need to. I want us to go back. Like let's go way back. Look, I still need to know. There's so much I don't know about you. Well, I mean, you
Mm.
don't have to give us all the tea. Of course, you can always, leave things out. You don't have to be
I
so.
have a book. I have a book coming. So just messing. Just messing. Just messing.
If you need to leave some things out for the book, you get me. But yeah, so let's start. Let's start. Let's go way back, like the beginning, like your childhood experiences growing up in Nigeria, music space.
Mm.
How did all that come together?
Hmm. So with that question, it literally takes me all the way back. So I mean, my grandfather used to listen to music. Um, and when I think back, I realized that's maybe where I got it from. My mom used so we had a radio, not a TV. So
Okay.
in my I think we got a TV when I turned, I don't know, maybe 13 or something. So there are loads of movies that come from back in the day that I didn't see until I grew up, because we didn't have a TV, we had a radio. So my life experience is basically molded around having a radio, really.
Mm.
Um, but everything changed. So I mean, I would listen to the music my mom listened to. So she would listen to Jimmy Cliff and all of that stuff. I remember the first tape of my mom's that I recorded on. I remember I had Papa look at the mountain, and yeah. So I at least remember that one song. I went and dubbed some hip hop song on it. Anyway, um, so in my JSS one, I started to go to school with a very good friend of mine, Dayo Yejide. And I always say to him, he had no idea at the time. He changed my life,
Mm.
because he had discovered music by the time we're in JSS one. And I started to listen to all of, so it was most of the songs that topped the charts. I think he started with that. So there was a guy, a DJ who used to do tapes for us. So he used to take us there after school to make a beat tape, a tape, a mixtape. Yeah, mixtape. I mean, not mixtape in the sense of hip hop, but mixtape in the sense of, you put all of the biggest songs around on the tape. Um, and that's where I beat the bug of music. Um, and then I got my first album, which was The Chronic. I don't know, maybe 12 or 13 or whatever, you know. And then from there, I started writing. I formed a group with two guys. One of them is going to be with the Lord now. Rest in peace.
RP.
Um, the other guy, we still talk, back and forth because there's a beat that plays in my head. And I'm like, I remember this beat. So I reached out to him to say, Toko, do you remember what song this beat came from? Because I kind of remember his verse and I kind of remember my verse. But the bottom line is we're in our teens and we're writing and recording in Ibadan, by the way, in
Oh,
Ibadan. We're writing and recording and we're pretty decent, but these things happen and you think nothing is going to come of it because, well, nobody's doing this. Of course, we didn't know that people in different parts of the country you know, were writing and recording and doing the same thing we were doing. But yeah, so that's where it all started from, really. It was the early 90s in Ibadan, in Bashan, to be precise.
okay. But how was the scenery there? Like, I want people to get the picture of like how the scenery in terms of the city, the vibe of the city, the energy of the people around you.
So I'm going to be honest and say that at this time in my life, we it was just the three of us, really. You know, I didn't used to I didn't rap in school, for instance.
Mm,
I didn't do any of that. Oh, even though by the time I got to SS3, I probably knew all the songs on radio by heart.
mm,
But nobody in school really knew that me.
mm.
You know, that me was reserved for my guys at home. So once I got back home, what I typically did was go into my room, lock the door, and just listen to the radio and hold my pause button, if you know what I mean. So I would record, so I had loads of tapes. So that's all I did. During holidays, I stayed in the house, and recorded music. And that's all I did. But I never actually pushed it to the point where either myself as a single unit
Mm.
or my group went out to perform, or it didn't get that far.
Oh,
It didn't. So as far as scenes, I have no idea, or I had no idea anything was happening anywhere or anybody was doing anything, because it was just something we did. Ironically, I had my little record label at the time, Empire Records. Again, I had no idea that it would impact what I'll be doing for the rest of my life.
wow.
It was just something that I love to do, that I did, but it was in my room or in the living room of my friends. And that's all it was, really.
Wow, that's quite interesting. And it's kind of like similar to how I started as well, but it's different because it's Lagos. A lot of things
Exactly.
like so that drew you to be outside, to be somewhere else. That's why I was trying to get the picture of Ibadan because
Hmm.
I have no idea how it is over there.
Yeah,
Different
yeah.
G, that kind of
Hmm.
like how did you now transition from that? So I mean, you've been in the music, like you listen to music and studying, yeah, the classics and everything. But like, how did that inform you to go into journalism? Like what changed? Like, where did you eat that fork in the road and be like, okay, this is my path?
I remember, I don't think I can ever forget the day it happened.
Mm,
Um I went to a friend's place. So by this was 1996, 96? No, 1997. Okay, so 1997, I think I was in UI by now. So I was in my 100 level in UI. I had already sat at home for almost 2 years, between 95 when I finished secondary school and 97 when I got into UI, because we wrote Jam in late 95,
mm.
and there was a strike for the entirety of 96.
Uh,
You know, so I didn't get into school until 97. So I basically sat at home, and I discovered um a classmate from my secondary school, and we became fast friends. So I used to go to his house.
mm,
So this one day I was coming from his house, and I would walk. I used to do a lot of walking because I didn't have money. So this one day I was walking from his house. I passed by a book stand, which wasn't really a book stand because the books were on the floor. So there were books on the floor and there were magazines on the floor. And I saw a Busta Rhymes cover,
mm.
right? And I picked it up. Now, at this time, I was crazy about Busta Rhymes.
Wow.
I had just bought the tape at the time. I was crazy about Busta Rhymes. So I bought the magazine. I flipped through the magazine and I saw a Busta Rhymes poster in the middle, and I just took it.
Mm.
The magazine happened to be Hip Hop World,
Mm-mm.
right? So and here's the thing. Of course, I had consumed, your word ups, your write-ons, your sources, vibe. I had consumed everything, so I like the idea of magazines. I got all my information from magazines, and then if you're a hip hop head, of course, you get all your information as well from the music itself. So the five boroughs, even if you've never been on a plane.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Um, So essentially, I saw this magazine and I saw that there was some Nigerian content in it,
Mm.
but then just the fact that there was, I mean, Busta Rhymes, I took the magazine and I went home. I went through the magazine, I read it page to page, and I realized that, oh, so by this time, I had found a way to get a deep understanding of culture just from reading all of these interviews, from listening to the music, and then making inferences, right? I had a deep knowledge of the culture. I had an idea of, for instance, the story of Tupac and Biggie because I had read every interview. Again, the same person that I mentioned earlier, Dio used to buy all the magazines, so I used to read all the magazines. You know, so I read this hip hop world magazine, and I saw this guy, if you're Morugbe, and this other guy, Solomon Dari, who is Solo D, and they had the same exact ideas that I had. I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, this is a good magazine. But then I looked at the lyrics and thought, okay, you know what? But the lyrics need a little, a little bit of help.
Yeah.
So I wrote a letter to the publisher of the magazine saying, well, you know what? I bought your magazine in Badon. I like it. I can help you make it better.
Mm.
Yeah. And I sent off the mail and I forgot about it. I kept buying the magazine, but I completely forgot about it until one day, I think it might have been in 98 now. I was in school and they told me, oh, Bayo, you have a letter. And I went to the office and I received a letter from Ayanima Shaun, who
Wow.
basically said, oh, okay, you know what? Why don't you come to the office and let's have a chat? You know, and and one day I jumped on the bus. It must have been the first time in my life. So yeah, so we're on strike again in 98 now. And I thought, you know what? I can't just sit around doing nothing. So I just jumped on the bus. I went to Lagos, and the kind of person I is, the minute I came in, you just did some introductions, and we were out going to see people. So maybe on the first day, I'm meeting Idris Abdul Karim, I'm missing, Tony Montana, Eddie Montana. It was a big deal for me. And then he introduced me to Ife, and Ife said, "Oh, these are the new cats. Yeah, let's go." And I got hired on the spot.
Wow.
And basically that's how I mean, so it wasn't anything that I had planned. It was just me taking my chance. And if you know me, I'm the kind of person who says what they feel at the time. I I think I'm an open book. Like if I feel a thing, I say it's there's no contempt or spite or
Mm.
spite. Wait, there's no spite.
Spike.
Spite, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was. And that's how I got into the game.
Wow. It's actually fascinating, like, because looking back then, the internet was not like a thing. The internet was there, but wasn't a thing. So like, imagine that you sending off a letter, forgetting about it years later, coming back, like looking like from this lens, it's kind of like weird. You're looking back like, okay, wait, how did all this even pan out? And from there, like in a way, that kind of like that's how I got to know of you, was because of that,
Okay.
hip hop world as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the name was like always in the air. Like we always
Mm-hmm.
hear the name, but I didn't meet you until like later on in life. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like yeah, I'm younger than you anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't. There was no way I could have met you. That's just the truth. At the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was used to hear your name. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's just I'm just looking at the trajectory like from there. Like how how did you how were you able to how do I call it, balance the IB, your IB roots with Lagos. Lagos is a different beast. Like how were you able to adapt to like the different mind state? Because I know IB people, like the way the way you guys are is kind of different from Lagosians, quote unquote, like,
So I mean, I hmm, I think it might have been because by the time this was happening, I was in uni already. So I wasn't a child, on the one hand. But maybe on the other hand, the fact that this this thing that I've been doing,
yeah.
that is gift that I didn't necessarily work to get, in a sense.
Mm,
I mean, I put in a lot of work. I put in a lot of man hours, let's be clear. But I guess it kind of happened upon me, right?
mm,
It's not like, to become a lawyer or to become a medical doctor, you have to do this, you have to go to school. I mean, so maybe the schooling that I did was different because I did consume a lot of music. I consumed a lot of media from magazines and videos and stuff. So maybe there's that, but it just happened to me, and I found out that I loved it. So by the time that I came to Lagos, of course, Lagos is way faster than Ibadan, but maybe I don't know that I had to make any serious adjustments, to be frank.
mm,
I don't know that I had to. So I suppose it must be because I was in uni already. And by the time you're in uni, things will pick up from when you are at home, because you have lectures and you have this and you have that, and it's a bit faster than secondary school or the neighborhood, you
okay.
know.
Because even in uni, you are interacting with people from different
With
back.
people from other places, exactly. So I would like to believe maybe that's the reason why it was easier for me. Because the truth is,
Mm,
after Lagos happened to me, it affected everything, such that going back to Ibadan became a bit of a problem. I served in Abuja, and living in Abuja was a serious problem.
mm.
I lived a little bit in Port Harcourt as well. Living in Port Harcourt was a serious problem because, once you get used to Lagos, everywhere else becomes impossible, unless we're talking maybe London, or we're talking New York, or any of the other big cities.
Mm.
So I reckon, yes, I reckon that's the situation with Ibadan versus Lagos for me.
Funny enough, like I didn't even know you were from IB until recently. I had no idea. I just thought you attended UI. That was it. Like every other, like my older sister attended UI,
Okay.
and we actually have a mutual friend, Shukbo.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh, that's true.
yeah, exactly.
It's so true. That's so true.
He's like a family friend. Like when I was in like JSS, I remember when he was going to UI for the first time. Like he came to my house, and my dad. Like we all grew up together. So all of us like they were like older because I tend to hang out with older people, way older people.
Okay.
So I was
Okay.
always dragging me out. Not always. I mean, every now and then they'll just take me out. Like, okay, this is this guy. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I think the last time I saw you, like, I'm just going through this. The last time I saw you in Niger, you might not remember this.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Shubo's house. I was actually waiting for my dad to come and pick me, and you came, and we're both shocked. Of course, we knew each other then, but like I was extremely surprised, and you two were like, "What are you doing here?" Then we talked and everything. And I remember the
Mm-hmm.
last thing you did, you were like, I had my laptop with me and everything, and for some weird reason, you were like, "Hey, I have like some bunch of MP3s. Like, if you like, I'll give you." Like I still have
Oh,
the
really?
yeah, I still have the folder you gave me of the MP3s.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
you gave me Planet Asia. You gave me Afro Samurai soundtrack and some other songs. Trust me, I still have it. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. You don't even remember.
Incredible. Wow.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
that was the.
Wow.
I think that was the last time we met then, and that was it. But I just threw that in
Mm-hmm.
anyway. So regarding writing now, like how like meeting with celebs in Nigeria and everything, like what really what changed, like did they what kind of perception did they give off, like when you're working with them? Did you like have the chance to like really interview people in depth, or was it like maybe um how do I call it, um hmm, I'm trying to look for the word now. Did you have
Mm.
issues like working with?
Um, so I no at all. I had no issues with anybody at all. Um, I think I mean it takes a bit of casting the mind back because this is what the late 90s, right? So I think in the first instance, we didn't have the superstars that we have now, right? I mean, they were stars, they were recognizable, but it's, I guess much like myself, this thing had happened upon them, you know. So everyone is in their homes, recording on a tape, and then some people graduate to like Two-Face said, and Jimmy Jazz giving you an instrumental, and so on and so forth. So in Lagos, you're able to graduate from just recording in your house to going out and finding a known DJ and and taking instrumentals from them to record.
Mm,
And then eventually, studios pop up all over the place. And then you start actually recording. So if you look back at the late 90s, apparently you were recording on those instrumentals. So you weren't necessarily making your own music at that time,
mm.
you know. Perfect example being Shakomo, being from MC Light. Keep on keeping on. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, so we all of us, bar none, I'm sure, did that. Um, but then somehow, some way, you find yourself on the radio and
Mm.
Keke signs you, right? Again, it's not planned. Nobody knew this was going to happen. So it's just happenstance. It's time and chance. It's everything coming together at once. So I guess even though you've then become known quantity and you're walking around your neighborhood, or people know you in Lagos, or people know you across the country, it doesn't make that much of a difference at that point. Don't forget,
Yeah,
because I was there at the beginning, so there's a huge difference between 99 and say 2003,
mm,
because by 2003, people are beginning to make some money. You
mm.
understand what I'm saying? Money is always going to be the differentiator. Money changes everything. So I say that to say that I had no issues just basically chopping it up with people, because at the end of the day, we're probably the same age bracket,
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I've run into a rugged man, or an Olu or Tolu from Maintain, or Two-Face or Blackface, or Face, and we would have conversations, because end of the day, we're all age mates. We're all trying to support each other to grow. The magazine Hip Hop All started 95. I joined 98. I didn't really do anything because those were the lull years. There wasn't really anything happening at the time for the magazine. But Anima Shaun had put himself out there. So he had relationships with most of the guys, so I met most of the guys. And again, people are going to respect you if the people they respect you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I feel
All
it.
right. And by the time they have conversation with you and realize that, oh, this guy actually knows what he's talking, like he knows what he's talking about. He might be young, I mean, I was younger than quite a number of the guys, maybe
Yeah,
by a year or two, but the bottom line is I knew my stuff, and that's all. And I guess on the other hand, even though I could be quiet and I could be reserved,
mm,
I was also very um well, confident. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Very confident.
Mm.
So I could talk to anyone, and so yeah, so it really wasn't a thing at the time because we're all starting together. We're all trying to grow this thing. We didn't even have a name for it, as as
No,
evidenced by what happened eventually.
yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah,
there was pretty much no industry then. You know,
there you go.
everybody was just winging it and doing
Hmm.
like
I mean, well, so you know what?
yeah.
Um, I don't want to say there wasn't an industry because what that does is it
Mm.
it basically rubbishes the efforts of the people that came before that, right? Because the big labels were in the country,
Yeah,
so apparently there were people working in those spaces.
true.
So there was a Sunday Are, there was a Sheyi Allen, there was an Ife, there's an I mean, so everybody had been working in that space. What happened is the shift changed everything. So this second, there's Galala and there's dancehall and there's the Ajegunle movement and all of that. And then just like that, everything flips on its head. And there's the boys from Satellite Town and the boys from First Act and the boys from Surulere, and the Yaba Unilag Axis people,
Yeah.
and everything changes. But so we can't say that there was no industry. Maybe the structure that the major labels had left when they left, wasn't that much of a structure in a sense, but there was always an industry, so just to put that out there.
Yeah, true. Fair, fair. And also there's another thing I wanted to bring up. Like people always say this every time. I see it online every time. People say hip hop is not a Nigerian culture. I'm still confused because I remember getting majority of my hip hop on radio in Lagos. And I'm like, I don't think I'm crazy because I wasn't listening to American radio. I was listening to Nigerian radio. And
Hmm. Hmm.
you know.
Hmm. I mean, so so first of all, to be fair to them, right? To be fair to them, if something comes from New York or eventually, as we found out, the dirty South
Mm,
or the West Coast and so on and so forth of America, then it's American music, right?
mm,
Having said that, because I studied history, I always like to go back.
mm,
And everything that was done from the 70s had already been done before
mhm,
in one form or the other, you know. So if we're talking about our Awis from Yoruba land,
mm,
what's Awi? Awi is basically bigging yourself up.
mhm.
Isn't that what rap is?
Yeah, pretty much.
So I mean, when someone says, "Oh, hip hop is da, 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 whatever, whatever," it's not our at the end of the day, it's the language. So they move bodies from here, take them to the Americas to work, then now the bodies took their music and their culture
Mm,
across the seas, right? And then eventually down the line, I mean, culture is not rigid. Culture will evolve. So the culture evolved, and eventually, but there's a strong um backbone. There's a strong backbone. There's a strong. So the word I'm looking for is not backbone. It's foundation. There's
mm,
a very strong foundation that if you can basically draw a line from Africa to the Americas and say, okay, you know what? If we now take what we have now and we go back, this is where it comes from. So I, for example, look at I like to intellectualize things, right? I look at making it rain, right?
mm.
So when that song was huge, Make It Rain,
Yeah.
I looked at it and I thought, you know what? You literally can draw a line from making it rain to spray money. I don't know how it crossed the waters, because at the time of the slave trade, we didn't have, as far as I know, we didn't have the culture of paper money and spraying paper money. But somehow that culture made it across the waters. And it's a black thing.
True.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So the question is, which came first, the chicken or the hen? Do you understand? So these are the kind of arguments that I'll put forward when someone says, "Oh, hip hop is not our da 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 whatever, 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 whatever." Like, it doesn't really make any sense to me. The truth is, I don't have any real proof. I don't have any real data. But if I was just to use, you know, history and the movement of Black people from Africa to the rest of the world, and we say that hip hop is Black culture, and we can point at Cool Herc and say, oh, he came from Jamaica, and he created this thing,
Yep.
then essentially I can say that hip hop is Black and African, because whether you're Jamaican or you're from anywhere on the islands. I was watching something not too long ago about the similarities between the people on the islands
Mm.
and people from Nigeria,
Mm.
you know. And at the end of the day, so you look at Trinidad, there are loads of Yoruba names in Trinidad, if not the culture necessarily. But Cuba, they worship Yoruba gods. Brazil, they speak Yoruba and worship Yoruba gods, and so on and so forth. So again, people are doing their genealogy,
Mm.
and they are trying to find where they come from. So essentially, as far as I'm concerned, the music has traveled across the waters. It has changed, it has evolved, but it basically comes from here.
Mm.
That's the way I look at it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's a deep dive. Deep dive. I wasn't expecting you to go deep, but hey,
Sorry.
I have nothing else to say about that. That's open and short case. Done.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to clip that part and be putting it out there anytime people say that's what we need. So yeah, let's quickly go through um his other part, like moving to the UK from Nigeria. Like, you just severed all ties. Like, I think everybody else kind of went through that same thing. How is it been though? How,
Well, so you've caught me at a good time. I'm in a better place now.
yeah.
I never wanted to leave.
Mm.
Um, I mean, because at the end of the day, I don't like the cold. I don't like the cold at all.
Mm.
Um, I don't like early nights. I don't like darkness at 4 o'clock. You know, I'm a people person. I don't like unfriendly neighbors. Um, and I've always known that this is the lifestyle in this place.
Mm.
I'm a good morning kind of person. I like to greet. I like to chit chat. I'm a people person. you know I mean, I don't know what it is in the inner cities, but London and the immediate outskirts, people just face front, they wear their blinders and they just, you
Mm.
know and that's not my kind of thing. Having said that, in 2014, a very good friend of mine in Lagos introduced me to Professor Shimbajo, who was running something called Arts Now. The idea being, well, you know what? So this good luck presidency is spending this amount of money doing this and this amount of money doing that. And it was a lot of waste, to be honest. So if this Baba comes in, what we are going to do is, instead of spending this kind of money on this, we'll spend it here, we'll spend it. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't know Professor Shimbajo from anywhere.
Mm.
And I was a bit skeptical, but having listened to him, I realized, you know what, this man is very smart, and I don't mind casting my lots with him because if we do 4 more years of good luck, Jonathan, we're going to be in ruin, you know. So I started going to his office every Wednesday to sit down to create comms for the Buhari candidacy. And the truth is, um, if I was given the chance to do it again, knowing what I know now,
Mm.
I would. Phew, that's actually a good question. I'm asking myself this question: would I do this thing? I don't know. I don't know because um, good luck was poor. Buhari was horrible, but good luck was very very
Not to
poor.
say that. Like, yeah, Bravi was terrible.
And this is the problem. So this is the unfortunate reason why I left a country that I love so much. Because I mean I had my British passport, and I was basically just traveling with it.
Mm.
Um, so eventually after so what happened is after Buhari came in and for 6 months
And
there was no
sorry,
came into power.
we have a few minutes, like a minute left, so I might need to
Okay.
stop it. Then we
Do
just
you want to? Yeah, so send me another link.
yeah,
So
send them.
A few moments later.
so now between 2014 and 16, I had a bunch of businesses that I was working on
Mm.
um that were very capital intensive and were to be funded in dollars,
Mm.
right? Um I was working on a sneaker line for well at the time an A-lister,
Mm.
um and I was working on an animation, a movie. um I was already discussing um with the financier. I mean, they were a bit, they were still a bit um yeah, I didn't want to say skeptical because I said skeptical before. But yeah, but the bottom line is we had run the numbers, the numbers looked good. Yeah. So the bottom line is I was going to take a bunch of money in dollars. Um and so right after Buhari came in, the dollar crashed, and I think it went from maybe 250 to 650 and it kept climbing, you know. And I kept thinking to myself, so the thing is, if I thought that the right decisions were being made by the government of the day,
Mm.
yeah, it won't have really bothered me, because I would have figured out, okay, you know what, whatever happens, we're going to be fine at the end of the day. But because the decisions were horrible, and it was basically feeding this man's ego rather than helping the entire country, and it was archaic ideas, from the 80s, from his first term, and then you look at the not to turn this to a political conversation, but like Femi Kuti told me once when I interviewed him, man is a political being. Whether you like it or not, politics will affect you, because decisions being made. So when I was paying attention to the American elections of 2015, I think it was, you would have thought, why are you worried about who becomes president between Clinton and Trump?
Yeah.
And I used to always say, look, regardless of what you think of America, America is the heartbeat of the world. If America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, So you want to, I mean, not like watching the elections not like you can do anything by watching the elections, but you want to know what's going on because at the end of the day, it will affect you. You won't be able to make decisions to protect yourself and protect your family. Anyway, um, at the end of 2016, for the first time since I got married, I started to look at the idea of picking up my passport and moving here. Not because I necessarily liked here for any reasons,
Hmm.
but because, well, you know what, you have kids and you want um you want better for them. And to be fair, LD had always, and he always used to say, look, our children are going to, there's a way he used to say it. It was basically to say that our children will not be as good as the children in the West because of the way they train them, the standard of education, you pay through your nose for a certain standard in Nigeria and you still don't get it. There are schools that have British affiliations in Nigeria where all you get really is the location of the school and the name of the school. You're
Hmm.
not getting that quality, even though you are paying through your nose for it, you know. But anyway, so that's why I left. I left because I literally told myself, I don't see where the change, the campaign slogan at the time was change. And I
Hmm.
told myself, I don't see where the change is coming from. So might as well take this other option that I have and see what's going on here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's
so
just that like so many just had to pack up and leave, and anyway, let's not even go into that's like a different podcast. If we want to start talking about
yes, yes, it is.
podcasts. But okay, now let's look at the industry insights and evolution, like how the media industry has changed over your career. Like how do you see it?
Mhm,
Like with the
mhm,
trends, social media,
mhm.
streaming, and all that.
So you know what? I'll, I'll give a very good example. Very, very easy, very straightforward. In
Mm,
2016, I start hearing about this guy, Mr. Easy.
mm.
Uh, Like, who is this person? So it was Mr. Easy, and it was, what's the name of that group? The group that I think that I think I would credit as the first alter group. It was those three boys.
DRB.
Oh, DRB. Yes. So it was DRB on the one hand, it was Mr. Easy on the other hand. They didn't come in through the traditional platforms, you
Mm.
know. They just came to Lagos and came to do shows, and their shows were packed. Their shows were packed, and I was wondering, who are these guys? How did they manage to do this? Like how, and that's when I started to understand the impact of social media,
Mm.
you know, because the way you do it in my own in my own time was, you'd come, they'd meet with people in the industry. So you'd meet a Bayo Omisore, you'd meet an Ayani Mashang, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Not necessarily to pay. People like to demonize some of these things. It's standard,
Yeah.
it's standard. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a clique conversation. It's not, well, again, so maybe I'm just naive, Sha. Maybe I should say that. Maybe I'm just naive. I don't care much for those things.
Mm.
I don't want anybody to worship me. I don't want anybody to baba me. I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't care for it. I know who I am. I know what I can do. I know what I know. I don't need anybody to lower themselves to feel good about myself. But again, so I speak for myself.
Yeah.
So the way I will see any of these things might be naive, because I look at it through my own lenses.
Mm.
And my own lenses will suggest that, look, if you have the talent, you will survive, regardless of whether you are introduced. I mean, so the bottom line is these guys came in and they did their thing and they did very well. And despite that, it surprised me because I'm like, oh wow, okay, so people can. Now what I like to do is I like to learn. Like, okay, so if you can do this, that means it can be done. That means everybody else can do it. That means you don't have to do things this other way. You don't have to have a press conference or like, because they literally, Mr. Easy didn't do that. he lived in Ghana. He was doing his thing in Ghana. And when he felt the time was right, he came here, he booked the venue, he did his event. It was packed,
Mm.
you know. So early 2017, I get a phone call from, oh my goodness, I can't remember his name now. Ironically, we weren't even close. He was just someone in the industry. He called me and said, Mr. Easy would, or someone from Mr. Easy would be calling me shortly. He gave them my number, whatever, whatever. So they did call me. I told them, okay, you know what, come meet me in Lupeju. He came over to Lupeju. We had a sit down. He said he needed PR, he was trying to do something or the other, whatever, whatever. And I told him, look, and this is who I am, right? I don't want to take your money just because you have money, right? So I basically told him, you don't need me.
Mm.
You do not need me. You were able to do your show and it was successful and you were able to reach the people. All you have to do now, so rather than do the formal thing where, so I tell you, oh, okay, I can call all the media guys, and so on and so forth. And we sit down in a place, maybe at the Hilton or whatever, you know, and you say what you want to say. You can skip the middleman.
Mm.
Just do so I think Instagram Live was beginning to be a thing at the time. I am an innovator. There are a lot of things that I did back in the early 2010s that have become a big thing now. Because I always look at, oh, so there's this new device or there's this new app. I look at it as a tool.
Mm.
So for me, I told Mr. Easy, look, if you have anything to say, just schedule something. By the time you start it, people will jump on. The same media you want will jump on. They'll pick all the information from there and they will publish it. You don't need me.
Mm.
So I say that to say that I I haven't really been surprised by the evolution of the media. You know, as long as there's technological advancement, things will change.
Mm.
Things will change. I actually went for a course in 2018 after I just got here, and it was Apple. It was an Apple training,
Mm.
and they asked us to, looking at what Apple had done so far, they asked us to come up with ideas. And I created something that I called I did I call this iWatch? I might have called this iWatch, and it was a glasses.
Mm.
Now that I think about it, it was a pair of glasses, and the glasses were going to be VR. I promise you, I'm not joking.
Wow.
They're going to be VR, which basically meant, so my idea at the time was you could attend the concerts in your house. So you basically wear your glasses, and your glasses will feed in to the feed of the concert. The music of the concert will feed into, the sound that goes into your ears.
Mm.
So you're actually at a concert, you know. Um, I didn't think how it, I mean, apparently it's not my job. It's just I'm an ideas person. And they said create something, and I created it. And we handed everything to them, because I don't know why I handed it to them. But anyway, and I'm not saying that the idea for the Apple Vision or any of these things came from me. I'm just saying that I actually, came up with that idea, and this was 2018. So the long story short is that's life.
Mm.
That's life. Before I left Blast, I had a conversation because I had seen the trend. I had seen that, you know what, paper magazines are going to go off anytime soon. Let's go digital.
Mm.
This was 2009.
Wow.
I had the conversation in 2009. Paper magazines are going to go. Well, he might not remember. If you speak with Tobe or any of the guys from the Breads,
Mm.
when Kanye West, before Kanye dropped his album, I told them this is the guy. This is the next guy. Because essentially he's not doing what everybody else is doing. is doing things different. So the bottom line is, as far as you know, creativity or arts, so that I can put the media under that. I can put, whatever it is, whether it's TV series or movies, and the way we consume them and what we are consuming, change is constant. The change will always happen. And I like to be at the cusp, because I mean, like, if something comes out now, I want to see what's going on. So there's a new app that I want to try out now. It's for language. I've been studying with Duolingo for 4 years. There's something called Fluyo now. It's owned by a Nigerian German also, that I want to try now. The bottom line is, something is going on. I want to see what, because at the end of the day, that's our life in 2025. It's very fast, and things are going to change every other second. So that's what it was with music and the media, and moving from analog to digital.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that years ago, so maybe 15 years ago or so, I gave you music, digital music, because by that time I realized, it's no point carrying this. I mean, how much can a CD? So by that time, I was changing my CDs into, what's that thing called, where the file is reduced. So now, instead of recording 10 songs on a CD, you can do 50 albums, or
Yeah,
wasn't what
it's like,
so we used to do something. I can't wasn't what we used to do.
I think that was just a data CD though that you could put. It
Aha, that's it. There you go. There you go.
was like data CD. Yeah, I remember that era. God,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
times, man, good times.
Yeah, yeah.
Just goes to show how things have really, really, really changed now.
Oh, things have changed. So when I came into the game, we're using floppy disks, and it was 16 megabytes. 16 meg 16 megabytes. I remember very, very well. Floppy, oh my goodness, floppy disks.
Damn, we don't even use flash drives anymore.
Oh.
About it, like people don't even use flash drives anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I think people are even moving away from external hard disk because everything is on the cloud now.
Yes, yes. So the only reason why so I've now started buying SSDs
Mm.
is because, you know what? I want to be able to protect myself against, I mean, because you keep your things in the cloud and you hear, oh, it's been hacked and so on and so forth, you know. So that's the only reason why I've started looking at, okay, you know what, maybe invest in SSDs.
Mm.
Hopefully your house doesn't burn down, but
So extreme.
well, I mean, but it's happening somewhere in the world right now, isn't it?
I mean, California, that's
Exactly,
that's crazy. But yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I wish this could be longer, but I think this is just one. We could definitely do like a part two to this because there's so many things. There's so many,
Yeah,
topics I can go off
yeah.
on all that. But like the final thing, like what was your advice for newcomers in the field? Are you still into journalism or like have you completely left it? Or like
Ah, I left journalism in 2009, um because I've always thought, good example, and you notice that I always say good example, because there are things that I've stored. Um when I started working at Hip Hop World was a big deal. I was a nobody. People would call me Bayo Hip Hop World, and I'll say, no, I'm not Bayo Hip Hop World. I am Bayo Omisore.
mm,
So what that is for me is, I've always known that I can do more.
mm,
I can be more. When I was handling Two Faces PR, I mean, it's Two Face, for God's sake. So someone takes my number and they want to write Bayo Two Face. No, I am Bayo Mishori. You understand what I'm saying? The reason being, I'm going to do TV, I'm going to do movies, I've done music already. I'm going to, do I mean, maybe not be a politician myself, but get someone into power. So for me, it's to be the what was that man's name? Uh they had a Netflix series on him.
House of
Um, sorry?
House of Cards.
No, 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 no. The black guy that died a few years ago. That was kind of like the godfather to everybody. Oh, his name came to my mind just now and I forgot. Something AV. There's an AV in his name. I will remember.
Okay.
I'll remember and I'll tell
Don't
you his name.
remember. I don't recall.
Avery. His name Avery. Ah. But anyway, so that's who I want to be
Oh.
because he kind of put Obama in power, but he came from music. He
Okay.
came from the music space.
I forget the name, but I remember the.
Yes, yes. That's who I want to be. I want to be someone who is able to live out his dreams, because there are a lot of things that, like, I don't want to be here. I want to be back in Lagos. And I recognize that the only way we can be back in Lagos is if we affect and effect who's ruling us.
Mm,
We have to. We're too smart to come and sit down here and fold our arms like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. There's a lot we can do.
mm,
There's so much we can do. So I'm that kind of person. I'm not, I've never wanted to be limited to, oh, okay, so Bayo, I want to talk about music.
mm,
So that's the only time you can talk to me. No, I've never been that person. If we're talking football, I can talk football. If we're
mm.
talking politics, I can talk for politics. The only thing I can't do is economics because for some reason, and I've given up on this, for some reason, I never passed economics from secondary school.
Wow.
I never passed it. So at some point, I just told myself, you know what? Maybe I just don't know this economics, and I just left it. But anything else, I want to be in the room. I want to have those conversations. Worst case scenario, I want to learn.
Mm.
I don't want to be the music. I don't want to be put in that box of Bayo is an Afrobeat guy. He's fantastic, and keep me there. No, I can be so many things to so many people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, your work speaks for for you anyway. Like for me, hearing about you and all that, and like meeting you, over there, here, and being the same group, like just learning on the way. Like we keep on
Mhm.
learning, even in the group
Oh yes.
when people talk about
Mhm.
it. That's one of the reasons why I'm even doing this podcast because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you cannot stop learning, or you should not.
Mhm.
You should,
Mhm. Mhm.
whether, and it's not an age thing. I always tell people like,
Mhm.
talk to younger people, talk to older people, talk to people
Mhm.
your age.
Yes.
That's how you grow.
Oh
That's how
yes.
you grow.
Oh yes.
You
Oh
know.
yes. Oh yes. Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
any final advice for even for me for this podcast for I need edited.
So as far as advice goes, I think the most important thing for me is don't be static. Keep on moving. Jack Daniels. Nike. Just do it.
Mm,
Um, there's so much to be do. There's so much to do that can be done.
mm,
You know. And there are so many possibilities. So I like to think of myself as a thinker. Um, and what that means is um I like I like to sit down, like really sit into something and think about it
mm,
and find a solution, you know. Now the solution might not necessarily be traditional,
mm,
you know, but for me, even better. Um, so that's the way that I was able to get EFA into the um consciousness of people
oh wow.
because essentially, okay, so he's talented, but how can we separate him from everybody else? So that's what it is for me. It's just okay because they say talent is not enough,
Hmm.
right? And that's very, very true. I found that in my entire in my career that well, some of the talented guys might not be the successful guys
Mhm.
because we sit in our talents and just expect our talent to carry us through. Whereas the other guys will keep banging, keep knocking on the door. You know, I mean, if you look out there, the most successful guys are not necessarily the best guys.
Mm.
There are guys who are fantastic writers, there are guys who are fantastic singers, there are guys who are fantastic dancers, but most of the time you'll find that they are not at the top of their class
That's true.
because the guys that will keep doing it, and they might get in at 20%, but they'll keep working their craft and
Mm.
they'll get to 40%. And maybe at the height of their powers, they might only be at 70%,
Mm.
but they didn't stop.
True.
Whiskey being a fantastic example. When Whiskey dropped his first album, I reviewed it and I thought it was, but the truth is, he didn't stop.
No.
He kept going and he kept improving.
Mm.
Now, today, he's still not the best singer. He's not the best performer. He's not the best anything.
Right. Yeah. It's not.
Top of the chain.
Yeah.
Because he calls himself a studio rat.
Mm.
He's always recording, always, non-stop.
Wow.
So that's really what it is. Just, that's
Just
it.
keep moving. Just keep moving. I
Keep
like that. I think that's a very good way to end it. That's a very
moving.
good. And I always tell people too, don't stop. Just keep moving. That's
Mhm.
only dead people stop anyway. That's what I see.
There you go. There you go.
Only
There
dead.
you go.
But
There
yeah,
you go.
thank you for taking time out for this one. Hopefully, we'll be able to do more. I'll try and find time as well because I know everybody's schedule is I know how the UK is. Even me, like
Mhm.
I've already been out this morning. I'm still going out. It's a mess, but we just have to keep on keeping on. But yeah,
Yes, sir.
thanks for
Yes, sir.
coming through. We'll definitely do.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and yeah, that's it. Appreciate you coming through once more. Hopefully, more things will happen. Hopefully, we'll be able to see in person. But
Oh, definitely.
I,
Soon.
yeah, this Cornwall is just a different vibe.
Soon.
I need to find my way, but I'll get there in due time.
Soon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right then. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.